my lovelies, and welcome to another episode of the Along the Lanes craft show. It's been a lovely but busy week. If I were to describe my week in a few key things: absolutely crazy work, lots of sock knitting, binge watching the show Elementary, and a bit of this, some painting. So today I'll share what I've been working on, I will introduce you to my yarn stash as promised, and I'll show you what I've been getting my hands messy with. But first, I've got some bad news for my knitting friends. Those of you in the UK, you might be aware that there's a yarn brand and shop called Knitpicks. Well, Knitpicks now ships to the UK, so I think all our wallets are about to get a little bit lighter. I think their minimum order for free delivery is something like £40, and apparently they take care of any customs issues, so you won't get extra customs charges. So when I saw that, immediately I just had to go have a look, and the yarn I was looking for, I was hoping for some of their Felici self-striping sock yarn. I've bought some once, and I really like it, but it looks like it's at least currently discontinued, so hopefully that comes back in. I would love to make some stripy socks. As I said, I'm getting back into socks. Here's the self-striping yarn I was talking about. They're just such fun, lively colours. I'm not sure if they would end up being matching socks or fraternal socks. The difference being matching socks, the colour gradient would go in the same order at the same rate. I think these ones, they just cut when they've got 50 grams, so I would probably have to find the right point in both balls and start the colour gradient, because I think otherwise this one would start purple and this one would start yellow. Not that it matters, but there you go. That's what I'm hoping to get a hold of. I could also do with some dishcloth cotton and maybe some DK weight. No. Must stick to what's in stash. So while I was in Canada, I got my little nephew Leo a sticker book, you know, one of those colouring books and sticker books. It was just a Crayola one from Frozen, and it's really funny. He loves Olaf, and he loves the song that the men who are cutting the ice at the beginning sing. I think in his head, his version has no princesses, has no love story. It's Olaf, it's Sven, and it's Marshmallow, the big marshmallow snowman. That one everyone needs to look away when he's on, because that's terrifying. But I think what that colouring book made me realise is I love the way children just enjoy craft things for what they are, and they enjoy them now, and they enjoy them fully, and they pick their favourite page and start colouring right away, rather than the thinking that I've got too often with yarn in particular, but with any craft stuff, is use it lightly, save it preciously for future use, because you might never find it again. And I think sometimes that's what stops me from jumping headfirst into a project, is just that kind of fear that that particular beautiful skein of hedgehog fibres or skein queen might never come up again. And that's true, it might never come up again, but undoubtedly I'll be able to find something equally brilliant, equally amazing. And I think it's by channeling my inner child that I managed to have a lot of fun this week making what's going to become some Christmas cards. So I've had a bit of fun making these, and just kind of not worrying about starting with a blank page and not really knowing what to do. I can't draw. I just absolutely, don't ask me to draw a face because it'll look like a stick man. But I thought, I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm going to have some fun and just play with colours. And do you know what? I had the best time ever. It's much more relaxing when you decide to take things that way. So I'll be using these for Christmas, even though, to be honest, they're anything but traditional Christmas colours. I've been inspired by projects that are in kind of mustard yellow colours, in rich purples, and obviously I've got a soft spot for teal, so there's teal in everything I do. And I think it's just a bit of variation rather than have the classic kind of white, green and red Christmas cards with Santas on. These will have flowers on, so middle of December you'll be having some flowers. So I've filmed some of it, and if you want to see it in more details, I'll take all the footage and I'll turn that into another slightly slower video, probably with some voiceover, so I'll give you a little bit more of an idea what products I used and how I made it. I'm having to do voiceover because I prioritized keeping music playing while I was working rather than working in silence so that I could talk as I go. I'm not sure that the YouTube copyright department would look too kindly upon my choice of background music. So there you go. Have a look at the other video when I put it up.
Just what is it that you want to do?
On to this week's knitting projects. I think last week I probably told you that I'd started working on a colourwork hat, which I absolutely love. I've just finished it. So that's the Karusellen from Pom Pom magazine, and I made it with not quite sure what this yarn was. I know it's in my Ravelry stash, so I'll put it in the show notes, but it's lovely kind of slightly flecky heathery purple yarn that was sent by my friend Leslie in the US, and also some Cascade 220 heathers in pink. So my colourwork technique kind of is pretty basic. I'm not very good at catching the strands on the inside. Well, it looks reasonable, but I'm not quite comfortable with it. It doesn't flow very naturally. So we'll see how this looks once I've blocked it. I'm not sure. Would you block it over a balloon or put a towel on the inside? I'm not sure. So I'll be playing with that and hopefully getting a nice result out of it. But I literally felt like the world's fastest knitter when making this. It just flew by. It only took a few evenings, maybe think it might have taken me 4 evenings while watching TV, so for me that's good for colour work. And the other project, which I think I've been essentially monogamous knitting on this project this week, is the pair of socks that I've started. So I'm using Voolenvine's favourite socks pattern, but I might modify the toe because my friend Alison's shown me some socks that she makes that has a star toe, and it's the first time I'd come across it, and I just think it looks really pretty. So instead of decreasing like you normally would, so on both sides, you're kind of decreasing at 4 points, so you'll get a toe that's a little bit like the top of this hat, so kind of 4 in decrease, if you get what I mean. So it's all a bit messy because I've got different colours all attached to it now. So here are my socks. And the yarn I'm using is quite old, actually. I found it when I was tidying around looking for a plastic box to put all my camera bits and bobs in. I found a box that I thought was going to be empty, but turns out it contained a bunch of Colinette Jitterbug yarn, which I'd ordered. I think it was the first sock yarn that I ever bought, and it was part of their bundles of kind of odds and ends, so a lot of partial skeins, and it's kind of for a total of, was it either 500 grams or even could have been a kilo? I think it was 500 grams, that's more realistic, of all minis of various sizes. Unfortunately, it did contain quite a few unpopular colours that I pretty much nicknamed duck poo across the board, because they clearly weren't colours that were selling. But these ones, I really like the colours. This is kind of a green and grey, green and purple, kind of variegated, and I quite like the way it's kind of going around with the purple. I was worried it would do some kind of weird pooling, but it looks like it's working. And then for the heel, I'm using a slightly bluer, tealy colour of the same Colinette Jitterbug, which I think is probably left over from, gosh, when my nephew was born, I made him a Milo with some colour work of, which video game was it? Anyway, it was some pixelated little characters along the bottom, and I suppose I had quite a lot left because he was just a tiny baby. So there you go, that's what I'm using to do the heel and probably to do the toe as well, which ensures that my 100 grams of the main colour is going to take me all the way. I'm sure I would have had plenty if I'd done it in a single colour, but I just always have that worry that with socks I'm either going to have to make them shorter cuff or use a different colour because I think that I'm not going to have enough of 100 grams. I bet you I'm going to have 20 grams left. So that's pretty much it for knitting. I've also started a spinning project. I've got my spinning wheel downstairs in front of the TV, and I've been working, it's some superwash BFL and Rami, I think, from Hilltop Cloud in a lovely kind of foresty khaki green. Don't know what I'll make with the yarn when it's done, but I'm just having fun, some kind of nice zen relaxing spinning. It's made for a great week of knitting, spinning and lots of painting, but I know what you're looking forward to. I promised I'd show you around my stash, so let's go! Starting with the lovely shelves that I think everyone spotted behind me at some point during the videos. So in these shelves I have all of my handspun is on this side, so lots of these are from Hedgehog Fibres clubs or Hilltop Cloud as well. I think I was part of the club for a little while. So you've got all these lovely, these are very early handspun, this as well, while I guess this is probably a bit more recent. And this is mostly either things that have been balled up and I've decided that I wasn't going to make anything with it just yet, or the variegated. So there's lots of variegated. This is one of the Colinette kind of duck poo colours. of which I unfortunately got quite a lot in that mixed bag. This is some lovely Skein Queen Lustrous. There's some hedgehog fibres, mostly ends up over there because it's so variegated usually. Now this is the posh yarn shelf. A lot of this is Skein Queen clubs over the years. There's even, this is stuff that I dyed. Here's a sock roll from Easy Knits. Some lace weight yak from Lotus Yarns. Some more lace weight yak. There's some sparkle duck here. Let's see what else. So this is mostly all sock weight. There's some lace weight in there as well. And as we go down, these are either sweater quantities or at least larger quantities of various things. So there's lots of Cascade yarns. There's some slightly random stuff, like this comes from last year's yarn crawl and is pure silk. And I got one skein in kind of grello and one in teal. And honestly, I've got no idea what I'm going to make with that. Sweater quantity of Debbie Bliss Cash Merino there, and some Skein Queen Voluptuous in various colours. I think that'll become a lovely colourwork jumper, but I haven't started because I'm still kind of trying to work out what my contrast colours are going to be. Down the very bottom is lots and lots and lots of unspun fibre. So, for example, this comes from Hedgehog Fibres Club. And these come from Hilltop Cloud, who was doing some clearance at the end of a season where it's basically a mixed bag and you get something, but you don't know what until it arrives. So all sorts of different things. These are undyed, probably to be dyed in the future. And yes, there's a second layer deep of, of fibre down there. Up here, you might recognize the colours that I was planning on using for my exploration station. So that's still likely to happen, but I haven't started just yet. Oh, that's a little bit of a handspun. And some more. Ooh. I think this is my first handspun ever. It looks terrible, but good memories. I enjoyed learning to spin on a wheel for the first time. So I've got a bit of a buttons collection up here. A lot of this comes from my mum, but I would say a lot of it comes from my grandmother, who left it to my mum, who then allowed me to kind of nick her stash. Oh, that's nice. That's pure Angora, I think. So some Angora to make a really soft hat one day. And, oh, my collection of pom-pom magazines. They live up there. And here I've got my little cupcake stand of tiny yarn balls, which is more for decoration than anything else, but I love it. Put that back there. And finally, we're at the top of the shelves. You can see my my Hexie Puffs. So I still haven't decided what to do with the Hexie Puffs, and this is yarn that I've dyed and I'm using for a blanket for my nephew, but that's going very, very slowly. And some of my favourite pintail candles. And here, well, there's certainly the boxes for, yeah, I can feel them, yeah. So those are my spindles, are in those two boxes and in those two tubes. So I've got a few spindles. I don't use them as often as my spinning wheel, but they are there. Okay, moving on to the other side of the room. There's some more yarn. So this bucket is more sock yarn, some of it slightly less luxury, or some of it slightly less well maintained, so random bits and bobs. There is, however, if I can get to it, took a little bit of work to get to the bottom of that box, but I also have a bag that contains the yarn I need to make one of the Purifleurs hats by Kate Davies, which I've really wanted to do, but as I said earlier, my experience with colourwork is a little bit limited, so I think I'll wait till I'm a little better before I tackle this one. Does anyone have a class to recommend for learning colourwork? Because I could really do with a few tips. So next to the sock weight box is the DK box. So this has various Skein Queen DK. That's Desire, which is really lovely and I think super wash. So it's the one that I like to use for projects for people with kids and other various things. So this is stuff I've shown you before that I dyed with Gemma this winter. And some other bits and bobs, mostly single skeins or partial skeins, which I try to use for hats and things like that, but I tend to forget that it's there. Moving on to slightly heavier weight. Yeah, I know, another full box. This is kind of Aran weight, and there's mostly all of this is kind of natural fibers. But in here I can see that I've got some acrylic as well. So that's going to make a hat for a friend. So I've even got some little swatches in here from projects I'm planning to make with those yarns. This was all hand dyed, and there's all sorts of kitchen cotton in here. So lots of kind of Aran weight mix and match stuff of all sorts in here. And this is the last one for yarn, and it's kind of slightly strange ones, the kind of freebie ones that people give you that you don't know what to do with. So there's a little bit of Colinette, kind of thick and thin. There's some eyelash yarn that I don't even know why I have that. This kind of funny one that we were given on this year's yarn crawl. So that's it for yarn, but that's not quite everything. There's some mixed colored fibers, mostly merino in there. There's some more fiber, including some stuff that I dyed a few years back. These are great for putting through the drum carder, and the drum carder's up there. And by putting things through the drum carder, I can create my own kind of mix of colors to make exactly the yarn I want, to get exactly the result I want. But of course, it takes time, so sometimes it doesn't really get touched for a while. Oh, and finally, one last cupboard. This is Skein Queen Gotland, which I'm planning on making a cardigan with. But I think you're starting to see why I'm always changing my mind. There's just always so much to play with. So there you go, you've seen the bulk of my yarn stash. I forgot, there's also here, there's a bucket of acrylic of all sorts. So that's, I use the acrylic to make blankets or kind of things that I know will need to be a little bit more resilient to being washed. So I'm glad that I could take you through my yarn stash. I suppose I should also include the 2 sheep fleeces and 5 alpaca fleeces that are in the garage. So this week I was also doing lots of cooking. That's one of the joys of working from home and being home during the day. It means I can easily put something in the oven for a kind of nice slow cook 4 or 5 hours without having to kind of do it while I'm out of the house or have to do it only on weekends. So a few days ago I made a slow roasted lamb shoulder in the oven, and I promised I'd share the recipe. So it's nothing complicated. As much as possible, try and get the best lamb you can. Normally I'd try and go to our butchers, but this time I just got it with our Tesco online shopping food order. So I got a 2 kilo pork shoulder on the bone, and cut the top, just the fat on the top, just kind of make some cuts into it, put some olive oil, put some salt, pepper, and I had rosemary and garlic from the garden. So I kind of put the rosemary and the garlic in the bottom of the tray so that it's hidden by the lamb so that it doesn't burn over the cooking time, and then put the lamb on top of it, put that olive oil and salt and pepper, and I turned on the oven on quite hot, but I turned it down as soon as I put the meat in. And for that 2 kilos, I cooked it at 160, 170 Celsius for just over 4 hours. And at the end, I think the last half hour or so, so cover it in foil while it's cooking, and that keeps it all nice and moist and lovely. And for the last half hour I took the foil off, so it cooked mostly with all the liquid staying inside, but for the last half hour it just crisped the top a little bit more. And we had that with carrots and potatoes, and just served really simply, nothing too fancy, nothing very complicated. And literally for 3.5 of the 4 hours it just cooked on its own, and it's just that last half hour, once I'd uncovered it, I just wanted to keep an eye on it to make sure that nothing burnt. But it was absolutely lovely. It didn't even need gravy or anything, because it just pulled apart with forks. I wanted to take some video, but I have to be honest, as soon as the food came out, I forgot all about it, and we just ate right away. And then with the leftovers, the following night we made a lamb and butternut squash curry, which was amazing. So let me know if you enjoy foodie things on Instagram and here, and I'll be more than happy to share some of our home-cooked recipes, especially in the summer when we've got fruit and veg from the garden. There's lots and lots of veggie recipes, but also because we've got such wonderful butchers around here, we're very, very lucky to be able to just get the exact cut of meat that we want and know exactly where it comes from, which kind of makes it a lot more satisfying, and, you know, no processed meats whatsoever. So there you go, here's my lamb shoulder recipe. So I guess this brings me to the end of the show. Coming in the next few days and the next few weeks, tomorrow I'm heading to Festiwool in Hitchin with my friend Gemma. So I'm taking the camera and I'll show you around. It's the first time I go to that event. I didn't even know Festiwool existed until Gemma mentioned it a few weeks back. So we'll be heading there, and we'll see if there's some certain stash enhancements that might be acquired. And another exciting event in a few weeks' time, at the beginning of December, Stephen West is running a class at my local yarn shop, the Cheap Shop in Cambridge. The class is already sold out. I've been lucky enough to manage to get a spot, and I'll be, of course, bringing you with me, and hopefully getting a little chat with Stephen, who knows. And if you haven't got a spot on the class, but you are near Cambridge, I think there's a kind of meet and greet chatter thing in the afternoon. So do have a look at the Sheep Shop website or the Sheep Shop Twitter account, and you'll see the details. So that's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and I shall see you next week. Bye bye!